Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Write With Me at IELTS Juice. Today we have a letter to go through, and the rubric says, a friend you met last year has invited you to visit him or her in his or her country. Okay, so let's just go straight and say that our friend's name is Juan. And Juan, because I don't want to keep saying his, her, him, her, he, she. I just don't want to confuse you. So let's talk about Juan. And Juan lives in Australia. Let's go ahead. So a friend you met last year. So Juan came to your country and met with you. Or maybe you just met, for the first time. That's even better. And now she's back in Australia and she has invited you over to Australia. You have never been to Australia. You've never been there before and need some information about, before you leave. So before you leave and go to Australia, assuming that you already secured your visa and your flight tickets. So those elements are cool. Those are done. Now, before you actually leave your country, hop on a plane and go to Australia, there are certain things you are going to ask. It says, write a letter to your friend, to Joanne. In your letter, request advice about a gift for her family. Oh yeah, so nice. You wanna buy some gifts. You don't want to go there empty-handed. The second bullet point says, ask about activities and clothing in Australia, in her country. Of course, you need to consider in the northern hemisphere, if it's summer, in Australia, it's now winter. So you need to pack some warm clothes. And finally, the last one, find out about the food. Yeah, exactly. What type of food you can eat in Australia? Are there any limitations? Are you allergic to something? Or on the Australian side, what is their national dish? What food do they have? What kind of food can you find in Australia? Things like that. So, with that in mind, let's organize our letter. Before we begin, we always need to decide whether this is a formal or an informal letter, which is obvious. This is an informal letter. I'm going to put it over here. So every time I know that I'm writing to Joanne, my Australian, my imaginary Australian friend. Okay. So where do we begin? Let's start with an opening statement in our opening sentence, and you can go very slow. You can start by saying, dear Joanne, and then in the first sentence, just normal things. I hope this letter finds you well. I can't wait. I'm so happy that I'm going to meet you. My flight is on this date at this time, and once I landed in Australia, I don't know, Sydney or whatever city, then I'm going to take a bus to your city or something like that. So the The opening statement should be all about your enthusiasm, the way you, I mean, the time, the flight, things you are going to, things that you have already arranged and are going to happen. So just go ahead and write that information over there. I don't mind if you want to talk a little further, add more items, because later we are going to, again, still in the introductory part, we are going to request the first bullet point. It says request advice about a gift for his or her family. After you gave her some information and told her that, all right, um, I'm going to meet you at that time, and then how you will meet and things like that, you immediately say that, all right, but I really don't know what to bring. I don't know what your family loves, your mother, your father, and let me know what works best for them. So you make a request over there, and then in the first body paragraph, I need a topic sentence. There you go. So what happens here? Now, if you wish to get a higher score, once you make the request here, and that will be just one sentence, you can come up with some suggestions. You can say that I can bring this for your parents, for your mother I can bring this, and for your father I can bring this. And if Joanne has sisters, brothers, again, you can also add this as extra information, because the IELTS rubric is not limiting us just to parents. We have family. So give some suggestions, like I can do this, I can do, if your parents like this, if your mother likes this thing, I can bring her that. If your father enjoys this activity, I can bring this from my home country to him. Stuff like that. And you can go ahead and do, and you just put them in that paragraph. If you don't do that, you will address the task, but just make sure, if you don't do all this and you just make the request, let me know what your parents like. You need to add just a little bit more information here by saying that I know your father loves, I don't know, cricket. So I have this cricket bat, I don't know, from 19 some year, something, 1990 something, from that game, and I can bring it for him, as a gift. Whatever it is, just you need a little more sentences here. But if you don't do that and you just say one sentence, then devote a paragraph. And when you devote, then go into detail by mentioning the father, the mother, and if there are any sisters or brothers or cousins or whoever important the family is. Now we just begun, so we go ahead and introduce another body paragraph, of course. And here, yeah, we need more space. There you go. Done. So now the second bullet point says, ask about activities and clothing in his or her in her country. Okay, let's talk about this is where you can show your power of vocabulary. Talk about activities. What activities you can do. I don't want you to separate them. I want you to find an umbrella term. It should be like the activities you're going to do while you're there, and start by talking about the activities. My suggestion is like this. Say some activities here, and then talk a little bit about, if I can find, yeah, there you go. And then talk about clothing items. Activities, it's plural, activities. And clothing, clothing can be one item, but my suggestion is two. Again, just to make sure that you cover all the elements. So you can talk about shoes and anything for your upper body, anything that you put on, like a jacket or coat or raincoat, or maybe you need something like a parka, a winter jacket, or any sort of warm clothing or cool, whichever item it is. Just make sure you say two clothing items here. Now, two elements for the activities you can do, and I can also suggest one more physically demanding activity, like going on a hike to some place. Another one is more relaxed. Maybe you decide to visit a museum or an art gallery. So based on any elements, yeah, please fill in this paragraph. And finally, if you can come up with this strategy, you are already covered. So you have 150 words, and you don't need to say a lot of things. You can basically close, end your letter, and you can end your letter by talking about the food, or you can even talk about the food next to these items in the paragraph before, and label the paragraph. This was the topic sentence of this paragraph. You label this paragraph as all the elements and activities you can do, and you can mention the food in some of the details, some of the activities. Maybe you want to combine it with going to a restaurant and focusing on that. Just make sure that food has its separate item here, and you talk a little more about it. Talk about the ingredients, talk about the method the food is prepared, talk about the place that you can order it. But make sure you do that in this sentence. You can talk about food in this one, in the final paragraph, or in the previous paragraph. If you are really serious and you have a ton of words and a lot of special words about food, then I can suggest a new paragraph. Yes. Now, this is beginning to look like an essay. Depends. If you remember, every paragraph I told you if you know, if you can, if you understand. That's important, because depending on which area you're more comfortable in, you can play with this, and you can say, I love this element, I'm going to talk more about this. Or I like this element, and I'm going to talk more about this one. Or food is my favorite. Just make sure you properly address and talk about them. Maybe one sentence to address and another sentence to develop it. And if examples are needed, make sure you add an example for every element you may find here. I'm okay with the way you organize it. This letter is best because it allows you to talk about the topics you want, and the topics you decide can receive a full paragraph or just a mention. And in the end, you just you need a sentence by saying, I can't wait to see you. If you want to thank her, you can thank her. If it's not that scenario, and your letter, in your letter you don't need to thank her, you can just simply say that I can't wait to see you. So once I'm there, we can arrange some other activities, some other things to do, anything. Just it's your call in the final paragraph, and you write cheers, best, maybe love, whatever it is, and you end your letter. If you wish to see a sample of the same rubric, analyzed, assessed, and improved, click over here. If you wish to see other letters or essays that we plan like this, click over here. And as always, eat healthy.